What's up, guys? Welcome to the Expectations Podcast. I'm Christian, and today we're interviewing an amazing woman, Tanya Zhang, who's a co-founder of Nimble Made. They are a dress shirt brand inspired for and made by slim Asian Americans. So they've been doing a lot of great stuff and being able to represent us. And they've been featured in Forbes, HuffPost, Money Make, a lot of different places. And they recently just got a new warehouse, correct?
Yes, that is true.
So doing a lot of great stuff, doing a lot of good stuff for the Asian American community. Thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that you've done your research. That's like very updated. I was like, oh yeah, I guess we did do that. So yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to have you on and dig a little bit more into what you guys are doing and how you guys got to where you are. But let's start out with how are you guys holding up with everything going on? Obviously, like we just talked about before we got on here, COVID and all that stuff kind of happened. And all these protests and stuff like that. How are you guys holding up with everything going on?
Yeah, I would say we're doing pretty well considering the circumstances. We launched in late 2018, so we've been around for about 2 years now. We're really starting to kind of see the fruits of our labor, slow growth, kind of getting there. And then when COVID happened in March, definitely, sales just dropped down to zero. We were in a panic for sure, but obviously, we understand people have other needs that they need to put first, like, can I make enough money so that there's food on the table, just thinking about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Really, it's like, I understand because Wesley and I, my co-founder, we were kind of like, oh wow, we don't have health insurance because we're first time founders, leaving our corporate job. So there was also like a personal time for us where we were like, we also need to make sure that we're safe too.
For sure. Yeah, it can be tough for sure. Especially in this type of time. So I always like to start with this, which is tell us a little bit about like your childhood, like chapter one for you. Like, what was that kind of like?
Yeah, so I'm from Los Angeles, California. Originally from I don't know if everyone knows this, but the 626 San Gabriel Valley area. Grew up there, very Asian community, and so went to high school there. I went to the University of California, San Diego. So also SoCal, very SoCal vibes. From there, I kind of took an advertising internship in New York City, and that's how I landed in New York City for the last few years. I'm currently in LA now, but yeah, so my whole life I've been pretty artistic. I went to college for a computing in the arts degree, and then that really catapulted my career into graphic design, advertising, creative branding, which is a lot of what I do right now for Nimble Made.
Awesome. So we'll dig into that a little bit more. Talk a little bit about like your parents' expectations of you, because I mean, reading some articles and stuff, obviously there's a little bit of pushback on you guys doing your kind of own thing. Talk a little bit about their expectations of you as a kid growing up. Like, did they want you to go a certain direction, or were they kind of like do your own thing? What was that like?
Yeah, I would say for the most part, my parents were pretty open-minded. I think they knew that I was really into design and they saw that as like a viable career. So they were more than happy for me to kind of go in that direction. And so kind of like my career progression, when I started my internship in New York City, I stayed there afterwards. I had a few years in advertising agency. I went to a fintech startup afterwards, and I landed myself at Ernst & Young as a UI UX consultant, so user experience, user interface design consultant. And so I think at that point my parents were pretty happy with where I was. They're like, just stay there. You've made it. It's a big firm. We know, like, the Chinese names of that firm. Like it's global. So they're kind of like, okay, you're done. I think I felt really unfulfilled. I felt really unchallenged, and I think that's why I had jumped to so many different jobs within a pretty short time span. And ultimately, I knew that I just was like, I wanted to create something bigger and be a part of something bigger. And so, I mean, I told them that, and I think it's easy to say, like my parents wanted me to stay at EY or stay at a stable job, but at the end of the day, they were really supportive of me, like taking this leap of faith. I think the biggest obstacle mentality wise was myself. I was scared to take that jump myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I kind of used my parents as an excuse to be like, oh, my parents are not supportive, so I
Yeah.
shouldn't.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
they were, you're like, oh crap, like now I have to be okay with it myself.
Yeah. I think, cause I mean, when I started, I got pushed back too, but I think once they kind of know the direction you're heading, I think they'll support you, because I think they want to support you. It's just more about, they can't really see the vision that you're having as well. And then once they can see that, then I think, they're with it, as long as, you're happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. So talk a little bit about, like, I mean, you majored in, explain it again. Say it again.
It's a really weird major. It's computing and the arts. You can just say design and graphic design.
Okay, cool. I mean, a lot of the stuff you were into with art and design and things like that. Talk a little bit about, like, what pushed you to that.
Oh, I don't know. I think that's a good question. I think growing up, my parents put me in like after school like art classes, and so you started with sketching, you started with painting, and so I just had a knack for art, and I enjoyed art, and I really like it, and so I think naturally that's just kind of how it progressed from those after school classes to like to like seeing corporate brands and seeing how brands like talk about themselves, and wanting to also create something like that was really exciting.
Gotcha. Cool. I mean, that's amazing. And then so you major in that, you graduate, then you do all these jobs, you move job pretty quickly, and then you get an Ernst & Young. And then how do you meet your husband?
Oh, so we're not married yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. He's like behind the screen, like freaking out. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I met Wesley, my co-founder. We are dating. We've been dating for the past four years or so.
Okay.
2.5 years. Yeah, so we actually met in New York City. He's born in Taiwan. He lived in Jersey, and then he moved to Manhattan or New York City to also start his career. That's kind of the same time that I started it. So, we're the same year. And we actually met through Coffee Meets Bagel, which is a dating app. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Gotcha. Cool. So, and then how do you guys end up partnering up on something like this or something like Nimble Made?
Yeah, I think we both have a entrepreneurial spirit. We are both kind of unsatisfied with where we were in kind of like the day-to-day of our jobs. We felt like we could do all of our work in like 2 hours, and the rest of the time we were just sitting there. So I think we both kind of shared that, and just that unfulfillment in our work. And so I think after a few years of dating, maybe like 2 years, we were kind of thinking like, oh, we have very complementary skill sets. Me in like the branding, the design, and advertising, and then Wesley worked at City, so he had a lot of like the finance, and he worked at a e-commerce startup afterwards too, so a lot of data, And so I think just naturally we thought that we have very complementary skill sets, and so we should try something. And so there was a time where we were like working at our full-time jobs, and then afterwards coming home and thinking about like new ideas, or thinking about like ideas, like what can we do, like and so I think we were thinking and brainstorming ideas for like a while now, and I think a lot of people end up kind of stuck in this like ideation phase of like, how do you know what's the right idea, and so we were kind of going through that too, and kind of in a loop, but it came down to like Wesley coming home and saying that he just always had the problem of not being able to find a shirt that fit him. He's probably he's 5'5" in height, like 135 pounds. So definitely like a smaller framed man. And so he had this issue, and like I didn't really believe him because for women's clothing, the sizes I feel like are much more nuanced. Like we have brands specifically just for petite women, like only making petite clothes. And I do understand that for men there are like slim fit brands, but we've tried them. Like we've tried all of them. We would try on every single dress shirt brand at Macy's. They were big, and so I distinctly remember that happening with my dad too. Like I'm first generation born in the U.S., and so my dad is an immigrant coming here. He's a businessman, and he just all the dress shirts were just so big on him. Like it looked like he was wearing a dress, and so. I thought that was so odd. I thought that was so odd. Like we would often have to look for like an XXX small or something like that, or have to shop in like the juniors section, which is really like, I think that like really sucks. Like what is like that says, I feel like that can really affect someone's confidence, especially as an immigrant in the
Sure.
US trying to like work,
Yep.
trying to be professional and feel confident in the workplace. And so I think it really came from that. Like I saw the parallels of like what my dad experienced, not finding a show that fit him, and then Wesley's experience to working in finance. And so I think it was just one of those like aha moments where he like came home and we're like, that's like kind of interesting. Maybe we can like make a shirt that fits you better. You know, like we
Yeah.
don't have any fashion experience, garment
Yep.
manufacturing experience, but I think that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think that, we hear a lot of stories about businesses that start based on their own problems that they try to fix. And I think that that's what you guys kind of did. And also, there's always that saying, which is, if you look good, I mean, if you look good, then you'll feel good,
Yeah.
And I think you don't like you brought up, you can't really do your best work if you're just worried about how you look like all the time with baggy clothes and things like that. So
Yeah.
I know I can't. I know that's for sure. So, well, cool. I mean, I love that story. I love the way that you guys have started, just being able to create a solution for your own problems. And this is your first business venture, correct? For both of you guys?
Yes. Yes. We're first time founders. So
Gotcha. And
exciting.
how has that kind of been? Like, talk a little bit about like the struggles and also some of the wins that you guys talk a little bit about the struggles first. Like, what are some struggles that you guys went through right away, going into your first business venture?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest struggles was just the lack of experience.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, we thought we had pretty complementary skill sets, but we lacked just core marketing knowledge. Because working in the corporate world, you're so siloed in your own like roles that you don't get to see in general how a business is being run. And so we really lack that. We lack that experience, especially because we're e-commerce. There's a lot of kind of digital like metrics and like just like funnels that we just didn't have a good understanding of.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was experience. It was a lack of kind of a community of other founders, of other like-minded founders who are like Asian American, also first-time founders who are maybe also bootstrapping their business. There's a whole set of pros and cons for just like wanting to bootstrap and like self-fund your business.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the lack of experience was really, really big. I mean, we didn't have MBAs. We were kind of just like, oh, we're smart enough. Let's just like do this.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so it's a big learning curve, I would say, but it's also been really exciting because we learn a lot. So that's been really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's a common thing for a lot of first-time entrepreneurs, which is there's like a lot of stuff you don't know, like you talked about marketing and data and all that type of stuff. Especially with the world that we live in today, everything's changing and moving so fast, especially in the digital marketing space. So there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to know, a lot of different terms and things like that that you don't really think about, and they can all come at you super fast. And if you're not, being able to adapt, it's gonna be tough. But that's part of the game that we signed up for, right? So
Yeah, definitely.
talk a little bit about how I saw a little bit excerpt on your designing and prototyping and things like that. How is that kind of talk a little bit about the struggles with that and finding manufacturers and things like that?
Yeah. Pretty big struggle, I think, with the whole concept of self-funding. You only have so much working capital that you can use, and it's also your own savings, so you're kind of more, I mean, I guess it depends. I shouldn't say you, but I'm definitely more risk averse, and so it's been tough because we'll be like, oh, should we spend this, should we just drop this much all up front, so I think one of the criteria that we had for finding a manufacturer or finding a supplier that we could really work with is one that had a smaller MOQ, so like a smaller minimum kind of like per product that they can make. A lot of the bigger factories will need like thousands of units per SKU, and as a bootstrap e-commerce startup, you don't want to put like 10K down when you don't even have customers yet.
Yep.
So that was one of the biggest criteria. Like we had to have someone who's really flexible with working with an early startup. And so we did our online research, reached out to a couple of people, grabbed some quotes, see what the sampling process would be. A lot of people charge for samples up front, or it's baked into the overall price if you like it. So there were all these nuances that we tried out. We found one that we liked, so fingers crossed that they'll stick with us and we'll stick with them. But it's definitely learning as we go. Literally just Googling everything.
Yeah. So, and you guys did most of this while you guys were working your full-time job?
Oh yeah, we did actually. Yeah, so we had the idea March 2018, and for 6 months we were kind of in this like ideation, getting to an MVP stage.
Yep.
So after 6 months, I would say like probably October 2018, we had like a few hundred shirts in our apartment. We had the website that was live and like up. We had everything ready to go. And at that point, we were like, oh, okay, like the only rational thing to do next is to like leave our full-time jobs so we have more time to dedicate to Nimble Made. So so it was about 6 months time.
Gotcha. So that was going to be my next question, which was like, what allowed you guys to make the full-time jump? Was it just because you guys just needed more hours into the business, or was there something else that clicked? You guys like, okay, let's make the jump now?
It was gradual. I would say that yes, we needed more time to put into the business. I think we were serious about it. I think we were fed up with having to sit at an office job for 40 plus hours a week. Like we didn't want to do that, and we knew that's not like what our future looked like. And so I think ultimately it was like, we weren't happy with where we were in the current state, and then we knew that we needed more hour, more energy, more time into Nimble Made, and that would kind of be like the full-time thing that we were going to really, really work on. So it was just really ultimately like where our goal was. Did we see Nimble Made as a side hustle, or did we see it as, an actual like full-time business that we could take on head on? And so it was the latter for us. And Wesley did take the jump first. I think he was more comfortable doing that personally. So he took the leap of faith. It was pretty easy for him. I think for me, I struggled a little bit because I was trying to get over this like mental hurdle of like what happens if I fail, and like should I really do this? Like if he's full time, then I can maybe be like part time, But at the end of the day, it's like you need to put 100% of your time into like your passion, and like this is your passion. We wanted to run a business. We wanted to find like a better slim fit for slimmer like Asian guys working in the US. Like it's such an underserved market. Like we have to be the kind of the first people to do this.
Yeah, I love it. And then talk a little bit about like how did you guys? So you guys made that jump. How did you guys get the word out about your brand and what you guys were up to? What was the strategy there?
Yeah, I think because Nimble Made came from a very personal struggle, and from a like personal place. We had our like immigrant like Asian American narrative very like tied to the brand, that naturally that's just something that we started to tell people about when we were doing outreach, I guess. So to say. And we found out that was something that people really resonated with, Asian communities, but also, other groups were really interested in this, like immigrant experience and more diversity in fashion, and being more size inclusive in the clothing industry. I think now is a time where a lot of people are like, oh, I don't really want to support big corporate brands. Like, what are the smaller shops that are doing something that are actually cool with a bigger mission, And so, I think just naturally us telling people why we started Nimble Made, they're like, oh, like that's really cool. I relate with that, and that's a problem that I have too. And so it was a very kind of organic, kind of grassroots way that we started to grow, just telling people about the story, how it came to be. People were just naturally just like really wanted to support us. And even today, we're kind of at like, we have majority Asian customer base, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's dope. I did see that you guys had a couple like launch parties and things like that. Was that kind of like that kind of help you guys be able to grow like your email list, grow your fan base? What was the result of those launch parties and things like that?
Yeah, so we did have an initial launch party right when our website was live and we had the inventory. We were actually still at our full-time job when we had a launch party. Gotcha. And I had like all my coworkers like they were so nice. So we did have a launch party. That was helpful. I mean, it was probably like 100 or so, not like a massive party or whatever. especially because it's like New York City, so
Yep.
the rent is expensive.
Hmm.
So it was a small one, but it was really great, kind of just to get the word of mouth out. Definitely helped with the email list. Got us like a base of people that we could start to kind of like talk to. So yeah, that was very helpful. I think after that, I did do some of the press outreach myself.
Yeah.
Again, something I didn't have the, I guess, quote unquote formal like, experience of
Hmm.
doing, but I learned online just by Googling how to get
Yeah.
press. So yeah, so that did help. I was able to secure a lot of kind of smaller Asian publications or communities or like orgs that empower and uplift Asian voices. So
Yeah.
they were pretty supportive in that, and that's kind of how we started to grow in the beginning.
Super cool. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of your stuff on a lot of these, different blogs and things like that. And obviously, like I said earlier, Forbes, HuffPost, like those are huge, So being able
Yeah,
to get in those places is awesome.
thanks.
And did you guys do like any like ads and things like that on social media? Or did you guys touch on any of those, or what's up with that?
Yeah. So we did. I think we went into the business thinking we just needed a really good looking brand, like really polished brand, and Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think we tried that. It was hard for us because we didn't have the experience with
Yeah.
Facebook ads. We had a nice, like, polished looking brand,
Mhm.
but we were still figuring out the platform,
Yep.
thinking about testing cadences and stuff like that. We didn't have that experience between the two of us, and so we started to like kind of find a contractor or find like a freelancer to help us with that. And so we did start initially with just getting Facebook ads set up, and then also making sure that we had a pretty good SEO plan, just as a e-commerce brand.
Yep.
One of the foundational things that we wanted. So yep.
Dope. Okay, cool. So you guys kind of built this brand and it's still growing today. As we talked about earlier, you guys have just got your new warehouse. So obviously you guys are growing with a lot of different variations between different shirts and things like that. You guys started with 3. Now you guys have how many?
Oh my God, we have so many. We have like what 21?
Wow.
I feel
Okay.
like that's a lot, right?
That's a lot. Yeah, that's huge.
Okay.
That's huge. Dope. So, I mean, you guys have kept growing over time, which is awesome to be able to hear. But you also said, like, back in March when COVID happened, you pretty much almost to zero, pretty much, your guys' sales and things like that. Talk a little bit about, like, how you guys have been able to adapt during a time like this with COVID, especially with customer service. I mean, I know manufacturers and things like that, they don't have as many people, and so a lot of the turnover times are slower. How are you guys
Yeah.
kind of dealing with COVID and everything that's been happening to the business?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. At the same time when COVID happened, Wesley and I were actually in a startup accelerator. We were which then became a virtual one, but we were part of accelerator. I think one of the things that they taught us was, now is a good time for you to just pause on everything that you've been doing and figure out how to make the machine just a little bit more efficient.
Sure.
And what that means is like, okay, yeah, we've been selling through the site, but is our site really that conversion friendly? Can we improve it even by, like 0.1%?
Yeah.
So there was a time during COVID where we're like, let's just stop. Like we were just running on fumes, trying to do all the checklists every single day, but like didn't really have a really clear goal that we were driving towards. We were thinking like, oh, a goal is like sales, obviously. Okay. But like, what does that mean? And how does that translate to what we're doing every single day?
Mhm.
Right. And so I think COVID was a good time because we paused, like the demand in the market slowed down, lessened a bit. So it was a good time for us to look at our website, do some conversion tests, really focus on CRO edits and stuff like that. So I think that really helped us because we were really able to kind of improve our conversion rate on the site, improve our add to cart rate and stuff like that. Really looking at those funnel metrics and just take a pause from trying to like get sales, but really focus on like honing in on like our machine, which is our website ultimately.
Yeah. Awesome. And so obviously, so now you guys are kind of back on track, obviously getting better at things you guys are doing, which is amazing. And I think that time can be a really tough time to be able to go through, to be able to see that especially for a lot of different businesses. I work a lot of different businesses, and a lot of them have been disheartened because of, not being able to do what they do on a daily basis. Talk a little bit about how you stay inspired and how you stay motivated each and every day to stay in business.
Yeah, it's hard. I think every founder is just going to be it's going to be very different. I think what they value and what they drive them is going to be really different. I think Wesley and I, we tend to be a little bit more, I don't want to say pessimistic, but kind of, yeah. So, I think it's easy for us to get really down on ourselves or look at the numbers and feel like they're really low, or just feel like we're not really like quote unquote like succeeding or achieving anything. And so
Right.
that's just something that we really struggle with, like personally, is that kind of imposter syndrome that comes with being,
Mm-hmm.
immigrants with an Asian American kind of like culture and like our backgrounds. And so that's something that is really hard for us. I think what has helped us keep inspired is really just our relationship, and keeping each other inspired and reminding ourselves why we're doing this. I think thinking about the worst case scenario and it being, I think our worst case scenarios are kind of just going back to a corporate job, which is not that bad at
Yeah.
all.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that helps us feel that we can, that it's not all bad. We can do this, it's not the end of the world for sure,
Yep.
So it's tough. I think what keeps me going is that we will like get more press placements that so I think just the validation from other people who are like, this is a really cool story, I'm going to write about you, is really great validation for me, and that keeps me going. I think hearing our customers who say, I've been looking for a good fit for 10 years and you're like the only brand that's been able to do this, that
Yeah.
like makes me feel like everything is just worth it. Like even if we only had one customer who has said that over the
Yep.
past 2 years, like done. I would just make shirts for that one person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think I think that's just been really, yeah, that's been really fulfilling. It's validation that, this, like what we're doing is important, and that people care, and that we should keep doing it.
Love it. And then talk a little bit about like what is 2020, the rest of 2020 look like for you guys? What do you guys have planned? What's coming up?
Yeah, so exciting stuff. Let's see, we have our dress shirts online. We're going to expand to a couple of more casual shirts, I guess. So we've heard from our customers that, they have a lot of dress shirts, a lot of professional kind of dress shirts now. They also have this issue with like finding just casual shirts that fit them well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we're going into kind of like flannels, like more casual kind of like plaid patterns and stuff like that. So that'll be really exciting because we've been really focused on these like workplace wear, but outside of the workplace, you still need clothes that fit well. So we're expanding there, which is really exciting. Excited to see how those are received. At the same time, we're still expanding our professional dress shirts as well. So patterns, colors, and stuff like that. We've got pretty good feedback for those shirts. So it's exciting. I'm going to be working a lot on trying to get more press this quarter. Wesley is focused more on Facebook ads and really kind of improving our ROAS or our return on ad spend. So that's really exciting. Those are really like trying to be super hyper focused on that with the ultimate goal of driving sales. But Q3 is going to be press, Facebook ads, whereas the past quarter we were focused on a conversion rate.
Cool. Well, I always like to end with this last question, which is, if someone wanted to create something like Nimble Made or wants to be able to create a business kind of like your guys's, or just a business in general, what advice would you give them, or what would you tell them?
I think my biggest advice is to get to an MVP stage as soon as possible, and MVP being minimal viable product. So literally just do whatever you need to do to get a site together, functioning, a decent-ish like brand looking thing, like a decent product, Don't go crazy like spending so much money or spending so much time trying to perfect every single thing. For me, that could translate to like making sure every single pixel is like correct on the site or correct on the logo, or does the logo have the right color palette? Like no one cares if if no one's going to your site, it doesn't really matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So really focus on getting to like an MVP stage where you're like, I have a product, I have a channel or a platform to sell that product, and then try to like market it to see if there is even some version of a product market fit. Because if not, then all of it is kind of just like moot. So that's kind of what I would really focus on. Just just like hustle, just do things quickly as cheaply as possible, test it and see if people are interested in it. And then from there, you can always go back and like re-hone and like re-emphasize and like tweak all these little things that really like bother you. But I think that would definitely be like my biggest advice.
Love it. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. And then where can everybody find you guys? As far as social medias, websites, things like that. How can they kind of figure out more a little bit about you guys' brand?
Yeah, definitely. So our website is nimblemade.com. Same thing for our Instagram, Nimble Made. Same thing on Facebook. You can, we're still a 2-person team. So on the site, there's like this little chat bot that like pops up. If you hit that chat bot, dude, that's me. So, I'm on the other end of it. Yeah, that's how you can reach me. I'm always on there.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for jumping on and taking time out of your day to be able to jump on this podcast. Yeah. I love everything you guys are doing. I'm probably going to go buy a shirt right after this.
No, dude. Yeah. Appreciate that.
And then, anybody else that's listening that's a guy or that has a husband or boyfriend, go out and support Nimble Made and make sure that, we're keeping these businesses alive and keeping these businesses going, especially during a time like this. So thank you so much for being on again, and we'll see you next time.
Yay, thanks so much.
Yep.